If you just bought a cross stitch pattern and you're not sure how to get from this to this video is for you. 5 things you need to get started with cross stitch. If you've bought a digital pattern, you'll need to buy floss, fabric, needles, scissors, and a hoop or a frame. Let's talk about floss. In the US, the most popular brand for floss is DMC. The reason that folks really like DMC is that it's color fast and it's a little bit more durable than some other brands. The one thing I don't recommend is getting a really cheap pack online. If you wash your fabric after you've completed a cross stitch, those cheaper flosses might end up bleeding and really ruining your piece, which would be so disappointing. Floss is made up of 6 strands. When you read your pattern, it will normally tell you how many strands of this floss you use. You will want to separate it. You don't use all 6 at once most of the time. Next up, fabric. There are a ton of different fabrics that you can use. You can use even weave, linen, but the most common is going to be Aida, and that's really what I would recommend for beginner stitchers. Aida comes in different counts, which determines how many stitches per inch will be in your piece. So most commonly used are 14, 16, and 18 count. Personally, I use 18 count. That means that there are 18 boxes, 18 stitches per inch, but it's a little bit trickier. The size of the stitches are smaller, and so I would recommend starting with 14 or 16 count if it's your first time. In order to determine how much fabric you'll need, you will want to look at your pattern and multiply the number of stitches by the count of your fabric to determine how many inches you need. For instance, if you have a pattern that's 60 by 50 stitches and you're using 14 count Aida, divide by 14 and you'll have about 4.3 by 3.6 inches. But wait, that's just the part you're stitching. I recommend adding at least 2 inches on each side. That's a total of 4 additional inches in each direction. But remember, having extra room is never a bad choice. Needles. There's a lot of different options available for needles. I most commonly use tapestry needles. These have a blunt end and they won't hurt as much when you stab yourself. For more detailed work, I will sometimes use Chanel. Who knows how this is pronounced? These needles are a little bit sharper, so you can sometimes poke outside of the holes or stab yourself. The eye of the needle is a little bit bigger, which is nice, but the stabbing, not really worth it to me. I use the tapestry most often. Scissors. Of course, you could use your standard household scissors, but sometimes these aren't very sharp. You may not know this, but cutting paper or cardboard or anything really dulls scissors. So a lot of people will have dedicated scissors for their needlework or fabric projects. Also, they're just so cute. What is not to love about bird-shaped scissors? Holographic, pretty colored birds. Okay, what's not to love is these ones are not very sharp, but they're so pretty. And really, what is a hobby without more opportunities to buy things? Hoops and frames are not something that you strictly need, but they can be a lot of help. I, for instance, like to use a hoop on smaller projects. This keeps it kind of neat and the fabric is nice and taut, which is helpful. You can also use something like a scroll frame. The scroll frame ensures that I can keep it all neat and tidy and I don't have to scrunch up the edges. The reason you don't need a frame or a hoop is that some people actually just prefer to stitch in hand. For instance, if I'm doing something this small, this is a bookmark for my D&D group, I just hold the piece in my hand while I'm stitching, but generally that's kind of hard on my hands. It tends to hurt after a while for me, so I definitely prefer using a hoop and a stand actually to ensure that I don't have to hold that and strain my hands while I'm working. So really, that is all of the things that you need plus one extra helpful piece. Cross stitch does not require a ton to get started. You probably have scissors at home, you know? It's not that bad. You got this. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to see all of our videos in the future.